Welcome back, everybody, to the Demilitarized Zone. This is the one debate show where we foster good faith discussions and we help you feel comfortable engaging in hot button topics. We are not here for the gotchas and the dunks, so please check your weapons at the door. We are trying to help folks stop and listen to each other, even if that is just to see where we disagree. So, sit back, cozy up, get your voting fingers ready. Your vote here actually matters, as does the two judges. We're doing a slightly different format tonight. We are going to be having more cross-examination and rebuttal time in favor of that rather than the open crosstalk, because the fact is we're trying to get away from the shit-slinging that has plagued our politics for far too fucking long. So I hope everybody is ready. The format for everybody is going to be all 3-minute bubbles. We're going to have a 3-minute open from the AF. Then we're going to have a negative gets a 3-minute cross-examination to ask questions, poke holes, set up dunks, traps. We're calling them traps these days. Then we're going to have 3 minutes from AF to rebut. After that, we go to the 3-minute open from the negative. We're going to have 3-minute affirmative cross, then 3-minute rebuttal. After that, and this is where it gets a little tough, I'm asking my judges and myself, I'm doing this too, to prepare at least one question for each debater, to have to something to challenge them, something you can pick up during the actual debate, something you think got slipped or dropped or missed, and we will go give each of the debaters a minute or so for each of those questions, and then after that, we're going to have a 3-minute close. At that time, we're going to go to the judges. Each judge has a 10-point total score that they can distribute as they see fit, and we will also have audience voting. So I'm going to put the link to the audience votes in the Discord chat for everybody, as well as in the Twitch chat, so that way you, SpeakeaZy, can drop it into your own chat as well. It costs nothing. We do our votes through straw poll. It's free to click, it's free to vote, and it really does help. So that said, if there's no questions from anybody, we're good. Cool. Then in that case, our first debate. And this one has actually got a little bit of an interesting story here, because the debaters came up with the debate prompt for us, which is, I don't think, ever really happened before. So these two are going to be debating a really fucking long prompt. That's okay. Doink, doink, doink. Sorry. Give me a second. We're janky. We're working on it. God damn, this really is just too big, guys. All right. I know. I need to learn. I need to learn. I need to learn to take it even when it's big. Come on, get original, bro. All right.
Damn, bro's getting ready for prison, huh?
Right. You could at least go something like, that's what the priest said. You know what I mean? Like, come on. All
yeah,
right.
well, I already made one accidental bias statement.
You did. All right, there we go.
I want to clarify. I made the joke because I just finished watching Shogun, and I forgot the fake prompt.
All right, so judges.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah. Lethe has no problems with this. All right, judges. But for what it's worth, SpeakeaZy, you've got the benefit of Chief on the other side of the fence for you. So your judges are biased, but at least they're equally biased. All right. Government ownership of commodities is necessary to ensure a prosperous market. On the AF, we have Cassell up in the top left corner, and on the negative, we have, who is that a picture of? McGruffus?
French economist Friedrich Bastiat.
Good Christ. Okay. Fucking snooze, bro. All right. So some dead guy is defending this position. So, or excuse me, he's on the negative. So he's a libertarian, so forgive him. Now, we got 3 minutes on the clock. Cassell, are you ready for your opening statement, sir?
Yes, I am.
Clock starts when you do.
All righty. So when we talk about a prosperous market, I think some people think about how government being involved would cause more chaos, but it's the exact opposite. My argument here is that when we talk about price spikes that cripple families overnight, we're not talking about monopolies that hold entire regions hostage when this is government's getting involved. A prosperous market is stable, it's accessible, it's fair, and most importantly, it's built on a foundation strong enough to support innovation and growth. So the resolution of government ownership of commodities is necessary to ensure a prosperous market. Is that, government does not mean the state takes over every industry. It doesn't mean eliminating private enterprise. It doesn't mean central planning of all production and communism will reign across the US. What it means is that for certain essential commodities, those that form the backbone of the economy, the government should serve as a supplier and it must serve as a stakeholder to guarantee stability, competition, and access. Throughout history, the most successful economies have recognized a simple truth that some commodities are too essential to leave entirely to profit-driven forces, such as water, energy, transportation infrastructure, critical natural resources. These aren't luxury goods. They are they are the operating system of the market itself. So when these essentials become unstable, overpriced, or monopolized, every other business suffers. In many of these sectors, we face what economists call natural monopolies. It's inefficient to build 5 competing water systems or 10 separate electrical grids in one city. When competition disappears, profit maximization can override public welfare. By maintaining ownership or serving as a public supplier, the government ensures that prices remain fair, supply remains stable, and infrastructure investment is guided by a long-term national interest, not just quarterly earnings. And importantly, government ownership can coexist with private competition. The government can act as a baseline supplier, a stabilizer, ensuring access and preventing exploitation, while private firms innovate, compete, and expand on top of that foundation. So this model does not weaken markets, it strengthens them by preventing scarcity, speculation, and artificial price manipulation. We've also seen that markets are vulnerable to shocks, energy crises, supply chain disruptions, speculative bubbles. When the government holds strategic reserves or maintains production capacity, it can intervene during emergencies to prevent panic-driven inflation and economic collapse. You could think about how oil prices were spiking during the Russian and Ukraine war at the beginning. Joe Biden had used the petroleum reserves, the natural reserves that we have in the US to help stabilize prices, to make driving a car more affordable or to heat your home more affordably. So stability encourages investment, it encourages entrepreneurship, and it encourages growth. So finally, prosperity requires participation, and businesses cannot function without reliable power. Workers cannot thrive without affordable transportation. Communities cannot develop without water and infrastructure. So when essential commodities are universally acceptable, the private sector flourishes. So the debate is not about government versus markets. It's about designing markets that are more efficient. Government ownership as a supplier and stabilizer in essential commodities provides these secure foundations upon which enterprise can truly prosper. So in short, we should affirm that strategic government ownership is not the enemy of a prosperous market. It's what makes a prosperous market possible. And that is all I have.
All right. I love the fact that you said in short and went over. All right. So, Grufus, 3 minutes is on the clock for you now. Go ahead and give it to him, buddy. This is your cross-examination time, by the way.
Yes. So you say the government ownership of utilities like water is more efficient because duplicating lines is wasteful, right? Private competition leads to inefficiency?
No, so this is about government being involved with private competition. So I don't think government is more efficient. What I believe that they can do is help reduce prices and reduce price shocks, things of that nature. So I'm not saying that the government is going to be more efficient than private markets. That's not my argument.
Okay. Would you say that in a full market economy, couldn't private firms coordinate through easements, shared infrastructure, or market contracts to avoid duplication, even without a state enforcement or state interaction within the market?
They could, but there are many instances today where that doesn't occur. So it's something that is possible. But there are a lot of examples where private companies aren't as efficient and don't do these things.
So if private actors already design, you're saying that it's only, I'm going to switch topics really quick. You say government ownership is essential for some commodities and can coexist with private markets to make them more efficient, or sorry,
Yes.
not more efficient, sorry, more stable.
Sure. Yeah.
So in a full market economy, private actors can already design efficient markets provide services and coexist and compete through contracts and innovation. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear me, but my thing totally froze.
We can hear you now. Do you need him to repeat the question? I stopped time. Do you hear us, Cassell? Cassell, can you hear us?
No, he's froze.
Yep.
Yeah. That's no fun.
He's going to leave and come back. Hopefully that fixes it. For what it's worth, not to dox my dude nothing, but he is East Coast, and apparently they're getting hit hard right now with the snowstorm, so.
Yeah.
Maybe government intervention.
Got our first snow of the year.
Doxing is bad.
I think we're good. Sorry, I think this happened kind of like last time.
Word.
It did, Cassell.
All right, so I'm putting 1 minute back on the clock.
That.
Go ahead and ask that question again for us, please, Gruffus, if you can remember it.
So in a market economy, private actors can already design efficient markets, provide services, and coexist and compete through contracts and innovation, right?
I would agree with that, yes.
So what unique role does a government entity play that voluntary firms, charities, co-ops can't without claiming monopoly force or coercive funding?
So in certain instances, like if we talk about healthcare, some people say that it's considered a commodity. The government can use their power to negotiate drug prices. And that's a really big thing to do, is because a charity or a smaller company can't just come into the market, such as the healthcare market, and do that. The government is large enough to do that, and it can really prove to a lot of folks that the way that we're charged for drug prices are so much higher than they need to be, hence saving people money and helping the economy grow in other ways. Because, you know, when you think about healthcare, it's expensive for a lot of people. And I think if you're able to save money in that case, you can really spend it towards other, you know, necessities that you need in life. So that's one example I'd give of how the government can kind of step in as a bigger entity than like a charity per se.
All right, so that's time on the cross-examination. Again, like I said, everybody, this is a brand new format for the timing. So if we don't like it, we can tell me so afterwards. We'll discuss it later if we see any tweaks that we think need to happen. That said, I now have 3 minutes back to you once again there, Cassell. If you'd like to expound on anything you were just asked, or if you want to fill in any gaps or clarify anything, this is your time to do so. Go ahead.
To clarify on my end, I don't think I need anything.
No,
Horace, I think I'm good. Only for his
yeah, no, so to be clear, I put the 3 minutes rebuttal time there because somebody suggested that it would be a good idea after somebody has been grilled to give them the opportunity to sort of reset. So that said, your grilling was
all right, totally
soft,
fair.
so.
I mean, I'll take.
Yeah, no, again, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think it is useful. Maybe I feel like we're very cordial in our examination so far, so I felt like I answered that. But fine. I mean, if I have the time, I'll take it.
Yeah, it's your time.
All right, yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so I just think that a lot of what what Gruffus is saying here is, you know, how private entities can be more efficient and that they can coexist with government already. And, you know, when we talk about efficiencies, what I was getting at with the prompt here is a more prosperous market. And I think that, you know, in terms of the healthcare example that I gave, I think that was like one of the big ones that kind of set me off on this, is that there are a lot of things that private entities do well already. But when it comes to things like natural resources and commodities like healthcare, what you see a lot of time are companies looking to make money off of essential needs for the consumer. So when we talked about electricity or water sources, you actually have a company out there that's saying, how do we provide these resources to people at their expense, not how can we provide them at as a nonprofit. And I think when you talk about these resources and commodities, I think these aren't luxuries. This isn't like giving somebody an iPhone or a brand new TV. This is something that they need to survive. And so when we talk about commodities in a way that's necessary for folks to survive, I don't really understand why it wouldn't be a good idea to have a government that isn't looking to make profit off of folks who need these essential resources like a private company would, because at the end of the day, private companies answer to stakeholders and shareholders, and they need to make money so that they can be happy and buy whatever stock that they support in the market. So a government entity doesn't need that. And I think that's why when we talk about proficient or helping the market rather than being more efficient, that's why I think government is necessary. So anyways, that's what I'll use my time for, to just
good stuff.
Pound that in there.
All right, now we're looking over at you, Grufus. 3 minutes is on the clock for you. You got that opening ready?
Yeah.
All right. Start it when you're ready.
Individuals. Oh, sorry. Okay.
You're good.
Individuals possess natural pre-political rights to life, liberty, and property, rights that exist before any state or law. The only legitimate use of force is in the negative defense of these rights against aggression. Anything beyond that is legal plunder, coercion to violate the very rights it pretends to protect. Government ownership of commodities, whether nationalizing or partial competing entities, requires precisely this plunder. It demands seizure, control, or coercive funding to acquire and hold that which belongs to individuals through voluntary production or exchange. Even if hypothetically funded voluntary donations, any entity claiming a territorial monopoly on force remains aggressive. It bars competing defense, enforces ownership through coercion, and removes resources through consensual markets. The true market economy allows only private agencies, charities, or mutual associations, no monopoly, no forced funding, and no state ownership. Practically, this is unnecessary and destructive. As Cassell brought up, we can look at healthcare, a key area where affirmative often claims government negotiates better than charities. However, before the New Deal and government dominance, mutual aid societies and fraternal lodge practices provided affordable doctor care to millions of working-class Americans, especially immigrants and the poor. By the 1920s, at least 1/3 of the adult men belonged paying small dues for doctors' visits, sick pay, hospitalization, and even orphanages. Lodges contracted directly with physicians on flat fees, keeping costs low and accountable through member oversight. These voluntary decentralized systems delivered widespread access without taxation or central planning, far outperforming early charity alone. Government programs do not improve on this. They crowd out it through regulations, tax-favored employer insurance, and welfare expansion. If voluntary mutual aid essentials effectively pre-government handled essentials effectively pre-government, why assume that states' ownership is necessary now? It isn't. It's the displacement of better voluntary alternatives. Moreover, without genuine private ownership and exchange, market prices for commodities vanish, leaving central allocators blind to scarcity and opportunity costs. Rational allocation becomes impossible, waste and shortages follow. Prosperity requires voluntary exchange, secure property rights, and decentralized discovery, not government coercive ownership.
All right. That sounded like you were done. Cassell, 3 minutes for cross-examination. Hit him.
Cool. All right. So I think one of the things that you brought up is that community aid or mutual aid can kind of take care of some of these problems better than government. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Would you agree, though, that things like water and electricity, if they were communities funded, that some people may benefit without contributing, or over time the contribution rates would decline or infrastructure deteriorate?
Can you repeat that last part of the question?
Yeah. So if water or electricity is community funded, right? you're kind of relying on people to continue to contribute rather than using tax money that's automatically repatriated toward these things. So if some people over time contribute less, or if infrastructure deteriorates, are these things that are real concerns through like a mutual aid or community aid resource funding mechanism?
I would say not necessarily. Public utilities can often deliver lower rates, but they also suffer from deferred maintenance and deterioration. I have an example that I can post a link to, but one example could be Provo from Utah. It was a public broadband network, which was so poorly run it ended up being sold to Google for $1.
Okay. Second question for you is kind of about price stability and crises. So if there were an energy shortage, or during an energy shortage, or like a global shock, should the government intervene to prevent an extreme price spike? Like, let's say, like what I mentioned during the war in Ukraine, if gas prices went up to, $8, $9 in some places like Los Angeles when they were at their extreme tops, do you think that the government should intervene at that point like we had, or we shouldn't until the market gets involved naturally?
No, government should not intervene to keep prices lower during emergency price controls, such as anti-price gouging laws, ceilings, or forced price freezes. Almost always make crises worse by creating or prolonging shortages, discouraging rapid supply increases, and misallocating scarce resources. This holds even when the goal is price stability or protecting vulnerable people. For example, when a hurricane hits, demand for essentials spikes. When supply chains break, market prices rise sharply, and this is a price signal doing its job. High prices ration the limited supply to those who value it most urgently, and this incentivizes suppliers to rush more goods because the profit opportunities attract more resources quickly.
All right.
So sorry, do I
Time?
have time for?
Yep,
Or no?
we're out of
Okay.
time for cross-ex. All right, so but I'm actually sad because it sounds like you got more questions, and fuck, I want to hear them. All right, 3 minutes is back on the clock for you. Go ahead, Grufus. Go ahead and finish it up. Yeah, respond to whatever. Yeah, I don't really like this rebuttal time. It doesn't really make sense here. I feel like we need to fix this.
I like it. I'm going to use it, but I don't really much like it either, I will say.
All right, go ahead.
As I said before, on stockpiles and crises, private firms, future markets, and inventories already hedge shocks effectively. Government reserves distort prices, create a moral hazard, and delay recovery. Price spikes draw supplies in faster, controls prolong shortages and empty shelves. Private utilities, Cassell can say that private utilities are. What exactly did he say? He said they are less. I feel like I should have written this down.
Probably
not less efficient. Yeah. I'm not fast enough to type her clearly. Are less. Private utilities are not less efficient, but he used some other word. Voluntary coordination, easements, shared infrastructure, etc., can avoid that without any form of coercion, and are often better funded and better work better. Public systems offer deferred maintenance due to underpricing and political interference. Private utilities face real incentives to invest and stay profitable and avoid penalties. And there's evidence is mixed at best. Many municipal systems suffer high leakage and chronic underfunding. I'm just gonna yield my time there.
All right. So We're gonna go ahead and for the next debate, we're gonna get rid of that. We're gonna fix it and we're gonna change it on the
Please and
fly.
thank you.
Yep. No
I
worries.
was actually going to give you a suggestion before you started mine and Lethe's. If Lethe was okay with it, why don't you just like add that extra 3 minutes and do 6-minute cross exams?
That's exactly right. That's literally what I was planning on doing. So great fucking idea, sir. I agree.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, we used to have an open time where it was just like fucking, but it became too blood sportsy and people
10
just
minutes.
yelling and talking over each other and et cetera, et cetera. So it's all good. That's exactly what we're going to do. We're just going to open the cross examination a little bit longer. So that said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit up my question first. And it's going to be the same question for each of you. It's going to be a pretty short and easy question. Chat has already answered it for me, although I know the answer, but it seems like for both of you, your definition of the word commodities seemed to change throughout the course of this. So I'm going to start with you, Cassell. Will you please define for me what you mean commodities in this context?
Yeah, so commodity to me in this context would be things like water, electricity, things that are essentials for humans, essentially to create things and use for so transportation, things of that nature to create products. At a baseline level, things in the ground is usually what people think of as commodities. But I did mention healthcare because some people do view that as a commodity in terms of healthcare, providing healthcare. So some people might not view that as a commodity similar to oil or natural gas, but I think that's been used as a definition to define it enough where I put that in there. But essentially is natural resources that folks use to use or build for other things. That's how I would kind of loosely define it.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and look over there at you now instead, Grufus. We're going to go back and forth with the judges as well. So we're going to take turns who gets hit first. But,
Right.
But Grufus, same question to you. Define commodities for the class.
In the context of this debate, commodities refer to raw materials, basic goods, intermediate inputs that are used in production, traded in bulk, and serve as foundational elements in economic activity. These are typically standardized, fungible items with relatively low differentiation, often subject to price discovery through markets rather than branding or customization.
All right. LetsCheif.
I had this written down.
I could tell. Thank you. I would have loved to have heard it in your opening. LetsCheif, if you would ask Grufus his question first, please.
Wait, okay.
What? You answered the question.
I thought Aff typically went first.
Yeah, usually, but not
Never
for the
mind, it's
questioning
fine.
part. You're good. Go ahead.
Okay.
LetsCheif.
Sorry.
Sorry, no, I'm muted. I just need a minute still, unless
That's
the other
fine.
judge wants to
Then
go
Kay,
first.
Kay, if you've got questions or if you're ready,
I'll
go
go.
ahead. All right.
Okay, yeah, for Grufus, even if it's against the concept of natural rights, do you think that there's any part of the market that has been improved because of government interference?
I would say no.
Okay.
All right. Simple answer.
No,
can
it's
I
one
ask for
second. I'm just thinking about this really quickly in my
clarify. Go
head.
ahead.
This is another one of this is me pulling Alonzo again. If we set aside the framework of natural rights, there are cases to measurable improvements in certain outcomes, but I would argue that those do not consider the unseen effects. Whereas, so let's go back to public health, for example, or to healthcare, for example. Government mandates and investments dramatically reduced infectious diseases in the U.S. Cholera and typhoid death plummeted after Chicago and New York City's built water and sewage infrastructure. However, these displaced voluntary mutual aid societies and private sanitation firms over time, public systems can suffer deterioration due to underfunding and politics, for example, the water crisis. My alternative would be private utilities and communities contract with each other which could have a scaled similarity with secure property rights being more moral.
All right. And Kay, your question for Cassell?
Okay. For Cassell, do you have any empirical evidence that you can present of government making the market overall more prosperous? So that would be statistics, examples, or any type of documented evidence.
Yeah, so the government making the market more prosperous. I mean, we could talk about how the government subsidizes certain industries today. We can talk about, again, with healthcare, how the government has been involved and how it has reduce the amount of healthcare costs over time. Like one of the things that's actually really interesting about Obamacare is that a lot of people think that healthcare costs are going up because of Obamacare is one of the, arguments you hear about there on the right. But before Obamacare was actually implemented, the rate of costs for healthcare were going up even higher. So that's one way I would cite government intervention helping, albeit not as efficiently as I would like or the best it can do, in my opinion. But I think that's one instance there. And then also with an industry like the car industry, for example. So without government subsidies, a company like Tesla would never have existed and created a giant market for the EV space. They use subsidies to basically come out of a really crowded automobile industry, gas industry, and find their footing because of government subsidies that were provided to them. And it now has exploded into one of the most valuable car companies in the stock market today. I think it has like the highest stock price, actually. So I think those are kind of two examples I would point to.
All right. And Chief, are you ready now, sir? If so, if you would please hit Cassell first.
All right, we're going with Cassell. You say that these commodities should be essential natural resources, but that would be pulling back from what the U.S. government does now. Like, for example, the U.S. government manages like a surplus of cheese, like 1.5 billion pounds of cheese that's worth $3.4 billion for the purposes of stabilizing the market. Would you say that the U.S. government should pull back on stabilizing these other markets in favor of natural resources, or what should be done there?
I haven't thought about our cheese surplus that much, but in that case, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Chief, I wouldn't be, because I don't think that's necessary. I guess I don't view that as like a necessary good that people are relying on like they would water or electricity. So I really don't have an opinion which way. Like honestly, I would be fine with it if they regress that amount of stock ownership of government cheese. And that is a real thing. I have heard about that. So yeah, when I think about commodities and resources, I think about things that are actually like necessities for everyday life. I think that food is actually necessity for everyday life. I think a certain type by that much isn't necessary for people to survive on. So that's how I would kind of distinguish my argument, is that people need clean air and clean water to live every day, and then also things like healthcare to also be taken care of. So I wouldn't view that in this instance like government cheese as like a necessary right for them to own. So I wouldn't disagree with your point.
All right. And whatever you got from McGruffus now, please.
If you disagree that government ownership of commodities is necessary to just ensure a prosperous market, would you say that any level of government subsidization is necessary for ensuring a prosperous market in like any sector?
So I would, of course, say that no, setting aside, once again, deontological stuff and going to consequentialism, they distort market discovery. Subsidies artificially lower costs or boost demand in the targeted sectors they appear in. They suppress actual profit and loss signals, and entrepreneurs chase these subsidies instead of consumers' needs, and which leads to malinvestment. For example, in the since the 1930s, the U.S. agriculture subsidies have kept food prices artificially high, especially during the Depression, which hurt consumers while protecting farmers, which was a net negative for prosperity.
All right. Well, there you go. So we are now to the closing portion. We're going to go back to you, Cassell. Use as much of this time as you need to. Put a cherry on top for us, sir.
All right. So we've heard a lot about markets and about efficiency, competition, and innovation. So again, we support the market and we support competition and private enterprise, but they don't exist in a vacuum. They're built on foundations, again, energy, water, transportation, infrastructure, critical natural resources, these essential commodities that every business, every worker, and every community depends on. When those foundations are unstable, the entire market becomes unstable. One of the arguments that my opponent made was that if there are supply shocks or crises, is that government shouldn't get involved to help relieve this. And if we have that option, I feel like it's a dereliction of duty not to use that to help people. And so, if the suggestion is that the private sector or voluntary systems alone can guarantee prosperity, we already know that the size and scale of a lot of those private institutions, such as a charity or mutual aid, is just not big enough to make a dent in the competition with these private sector companies. And we know that the private sector is looking out for nobody but their stakeholders and shareholders. Many of them are natural monopolies as well. We see this with the cable industry and other insurance industries. So many are finite natural resources. Many require massive coordinated long-term investments that cannot depend on fluctuating voluntary participation or short-term profit incentives. So prosperous markets require three things: stability, accessibility, and trust. Government ownership, as we clarified, doesn't mean total control of these industries. It's just serving as a supplier and stabilizer in essential commodities. And it means ensuring that foundational resources are secure, fairly priced, and managed with long-term national interest in mind. So the question before us is is not whether markets are good. The question is what makes them prosperous. And I think that, a market built purely on private control of essential finite resources risks volatility, exclusion, and instability. So government ownership of key commodities is not the enemy of prosperity. It's a safeguard. And so for those reasons, I affirm the resolution.
There you go. 3 minutes back on the clock now for you, Grufus. Do what you can, sir.
All right. Cassell has argued that government ownership of essential commodities is necessary to create a stable, accessible, and innovative market limited to utilities, energy stockpiles, and possibly healthcare negotiation. This claim is both morally and historically false. Morally, individuals possess, of course, natural free political rights, and government ownership, and furthermore, government ownership, whether full or monopoly, partially competing entities, requires coercion. And practically, history proves that voluntary systems deliver essentials without government. Before the New Deal, the modern welfare state, mutual aid societies and fraternal lodges provided affordable healthcare and emergency support to millions of working class Americans, especially immigrants, the poor, and minority communities. By the 1920s, at least 1/3 of adult men belonged to these societies. Tens of millions of men, including families, paying small dues for doctors' visits, sick pay, hospitalization, disabilities, benefits, orphanages, and widows' pensions. Lodges directly contributed with physicians on flat fees, keeping costs low. And in emergencies like hurricane aftermaths, Fraternal orders mobilized rapidly, providing food, medical aid, shelter, burial support, and rebuilding funds. After disasters like the 1900 Galveston hurricane, lodges stepped in with relief and long-term care for more accountability and quickly than centralized government systems. Modern mutual aid groups after Ida, Ian, Helene, and Milton have done much the same thing, just on a smaller scale, because they have been regulated almost out of existence, which proves decentralized, community-driven response outperforms top-down intervention. And these societies were not marginal. They were the primary safety net for the working class. They were regulated out of existence through AMA restrictions on contract medicine, insurance regulations favoring commercial firms, tax-favored employer plans, and welfare state crowding out, not because they failed, but because the government displaced them. The government is not necessary for stability, accessibility, or crisis response. Voluntary mutual aid and market coordination achieve these better without coercion. I yield the rest of my time.
All right. So, good job, gentlemen. So I'm going to go ahead and take full blame for parts of that because this new format worked great for the 3v3s. It is not working for the 1v1s. Again, we're going to fix some things and we're going to move forward. But that said,
you're guinea pigs.
Yeah, that's it. We're always trying to do better. We're always trying to learn. We're always trying to make improvements. But we're also willing to admit when we fuck up. And that's what I did tonight. So that said, we're going to fix it for the second debate. We'll get there in a second. So right now, I'm going to put into the chat the link to vote for which debater you thought did the best job tonight. I'm also putting it into the Discord room for you, sir, Mr. SpeakeaZy. So you should be able to copy that, put that in your chat. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and let you guys start voting while the judges go through their decisions. And we will go to the audience vote last. Sometimes it's a tiebreaker. Sometimes it doesn't actually matter, just like in the US. So that's it. LetsCheif, are you ready, sir? Can you render your decision?
Am I ever?
Not really, but try your best. Okay. Kay, I understand. Kay, are you ready?
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
ready.
Kay, you go first then. LetsCheif will go first next.
Okay, I'm ruling 3-7 in favor of Gruffuss on this. The reasoning being is mainly that this seemed as more of a vibe-based conversation where the affirmative brought a lot of good truisms to the board, but truisms are just that. They're truisms. You say them without evidence. You say that the government can do this, and it would be good without providing much evidence to provide why these things are good and showing the effects that they have on them. I think Gruffuss went unchallenged when he pretty much came up with a counter for a lot of things, such as the um, agricultural subsidies, even though I think he's actually factually wrong on it. It was never challenged. The mutual aid stuff was never, I think, effectively debunked or rebutted. And I think that the major one being the in times of emergency, which was a big point of seeming contention between these two. Gruffuss's point that pretty much higher prices equals more people pursuing that market will eventually pretty much stabilize prices and do that like faster and better than the government was also basically unchallenged. So I have to give this to Gruffuss for coming in with examples, evidence, and being able to get away with saying a lot of these things unchallenged. While the affirmative relied a lot on truism and just being like, hey, listen, I think you intuitively would know these things to be true, so I don't feel like I need to reinforce them.
Okay. All right. Very interesting. Very interesting. We got a 3-7 from Kay. Now looking at you, LetsCheif. Where'd you land on this? Audience, make sure you vote. I'm going to drop it in the chat again. Again, like I said, it's free to click, free to vote.
For me, I felt like some things were addressed by each side, but maybe not directly as like counters. Like I know initially in the open, Castle mentioned, petroleum reserves being released by Biden. So it seemed like they did kind of go back and forth with like some examples, but maybe didn't do a good job of directly countering each other's examples that they did bring up. Um, it seemed like there was like a core tenet of coerciveness that McGruffus' side kind of like relied on. And it might not have been necessary to the argument, but for me, I felt like that was a detractor because it almost felt like, if it almost felt like it was like leaning like a nod towards like a taxes or theft kind of thing, or like any sort of like, non-voluntarism system would be like coercive, like automatically, like regardless of anything, like argued against it. And so I felt like that was kind of like the backdrop for the argument. But it did feel like really close to me, honestly. Um, and I gave it to 6-4 to Castle.
All right, 6-4 to Castle. So it really does come down to you guys, chat. I'm going to put this in here one last time. I'm going to ask you guys to vote. Remember, not about which side you believe or agree with, but about which side you felt was the best debater tonight. Okay, this isn't just a popularity contest, although I guess that unfortunately it does weigh in on it. And yeah, I mean, Castle's so much prettier than the dead French guy. So, anyways, all right. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna give it. Wow, shots fired. I'm gonna give it just a couple more minutes. Let you guys lock those in. Probably just sit here and babble for a few seconds. Actually, you know what? No, I'm gonna say one thing because remember, I don't put my review in. I only have one vote that I get to make all night, and that's for the MVP, in my opinion. But I will just tell you this, Grufus. You know I love you, buddy. I swear to Christ, I'm gonna get you a fucking shot collar, and every time you say I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. I was to a point where I was going to get a razor blade and start like making, man, please work on it. Cause you are so good at your prep. Yeah. You are so good at your prep, at your typed out parts, but you're that shit, man. Whew. All right. So let's go ahead and look to the audience. Let's see what they thought. See if they thought, if they agree with Chief or if they agree with, Ooh, let's see.
They say no.
They do say no. 70-30. So that's 7-3 in favor of the negative. Wait a minute. That's holy shit. I wonder
who gave that.
Holy shit. 7-3 to the negative. That means Grufus, this is your first fucking win, buddy. This is your first fucking win. Let's go. But we're still, I swear to God, I'm not joking about the shot collar, buddy. Yeah, I'm not joking about that. We're gonna work on that together, I promise you. All right, so the audience voted. You guys made the difference, and you guys voted in favor of the negative. So good job, audience. Appreciate you guys. And that's why it matters. So, that was fun. Now, so I'm going to clarify instead of doing what, because kind of what you suggested there, SpeakeaZy, the more I thought about it, the more we're just going to go back to what we used to do. We're just going to go back to the default for the 1v1s, which just means that you're going to have a 3-minute open. We're going to do 3-minute cross, and then we're going to have a 3-minute open, and then we're going to have a 3-minute cross, and then we're going to have 10 minutes open time for you guys to just fucking go at it. It's no longer going to be directed questioning. It's just going to be you guys discussing in an open format. After that, we will still have the Q&A from the judges and your guys' opportunity to close. I think that'll work out, and I did the math, and I think that works about right to what I'm looking for in about a 35-minute give or take. So hopefully that's clear as mud and you guys understand what we're looking for. And so, yeah, so we're going to go ahead and get all that set up. Thank you both for your debates. That was, they came up with that prompt all by themselves. Now, this prompt actually had a little bit of a change from the original. So the next prompt is going to be a little spicier. This one is not going to be as sleepy as commodities. Instead, we're going to talk about Christianity. So the prompt is Christianity does more harm to society than good. One more time, that is Christianity does more harm to society than good. Now, the original prompt was religions, organized religions, but the debaters decided that they wanted to keep this. Oh, shit, hang on. Sorry, moving stuff around on the screen. It's never easy. There we go. The debaters decided that they wanted to move this to just a conversation about Christianity. Now, we have SpeakeaZy on the bottom, who is against this proposition. And on the top center, just above me, is Lethe, who agrees with this statement. We have 3 minutes on the clock. Lethe, this is going to go to you first. Please, gentlemen, this is obviously a sensitive subject, and so we are going to try to keep this as good faith as possible. Let's try not to be too disrespectful of anybody's belief structures if we can avoid it. I said to, I said of if. I do what you do. Lethe, I'll start the clock when you start talking, dude.
Sounds good to me. All right. So religion is harmful in the way that to make meaningful change, you would have to go against the perceived will of a deity. Critical thinking is no longer being exercised and becomes weak and useless to the individual. Was Christianity a good thing in regards to the bubonic plague? Was Christianity a good thing during the Salem witch trials? How do these beliefs affect the basic empathy of human beings? Christianity had many moral systems that predated it, including the Code of Hammurabi, which I think the Ten Commandments was drawn from. So to have stone tablets with rules that we should base society on already existed before Christianity. We had Zoroastrianism before Christianity. We had Hinduism, Buddhism before Christianity, all guiding people in doing right actions and bettering their lives. So looking to the way that the church has handled multiple things, especially slavery and segregation in the United States, the great Jerry Falwell still was speaking out against desegregating churches, schools, and federal institutions while speaking out against Martin Luther King. You look to the Catholic Church and its implications in the Atlantic slave trade. You look to the Catholic Church and they're making a pact with a certain group of Germans at one point in time. All of these things show you that without having this divine command to feed off of, maybe we would have been able to move forward as a society. Maybe we wouldn't have had the harms that we had. You look toward multiple missionary groups genociding entire peoples. Just recently, in November of 2018, a 26-year-old missionary was killed by the Sentinelese people for trying to go through and illegally bring the word of God to these people, which has been done to multiple different groups, especially in the Amazon, wiping out multiple peoples throughout history. So looking at these things, I don't see where Christianity being impossible to demonstrate the truth value of is capable of doing great good in those instances. So with that, I'm going to yield my time.
All right. Now, I'm going to keep it with 3 minutes on the clock for the cross-examination. So the idea here, SpeakeaZy, as you I'm sure saw from the last one, is basically kind of either poke holes in what he just said or set yourself up for your own open. So use it as you see fit, sir. I'll start when you start.
Yeah. So before we go any further, I just got to ask you real quick, is harm objectively wrong or subjectively? It's morality subjective.
It is entirely subjective.
So, okay. So then it means when you say Christianity causes harm, you mean according to your personal or cultural preference?
According to most people's preferences throughout time, which has shifted drastically over the years.
Well, that's a good assertion. But to make a claim of most people throughout time, this would require like a lot of like this is an extraordinary claim. This would require extraordinary evidence. But what I'm asking you, right, is when you say Christianity causes harm, you mean according to your personal preference.
Not even just according to my personal preference, to historical preferences and the way people view history. These things were harmful, which is why I brought up the bubonic plague. I would say
Right,
letting
so-
people die to the bubonic plague is harmful.
Right, you would say that, but you can't really say Christianity is morally harmful, only that you dislike its effects, right? Because you don't, there's nothing, like if another culture or another people believe that Christianity is good, are they not equally correct?
It depends on how it's being applied. So in what applications
so-
are they saying it's good, and what applications are they saying it's not
Well,
good?
if morality is subjective, can any society be objectively wrong?
Mm, I wouldn't say so, no.
Okay, so then it's all just down to preferences. While we still got 50 seconds here, I just want to pivot real quick. Can you name a society not influenced by Christianity that produced greater human rights, hospital systems, charitable networks, abolition movements at scale? Can you name a society not influenced by Christianity that's done this?
Society not influenced by Christianity. The fact that Christianity exists means it's influencing things, but I don't think a great deal of I don't think certain societies pin that on Christianity itself. So if you look at, Sweden, Norway, most of the Norse countries, they don't follow the Christian precepts, but they still have great healthcare and things that go along with that. Same thing goes with Japan, which is pretty great for morals. They're a polytheistic society. They have been influenced by Christianity, but their motivations aren't based on Christianity in any way that I can see.
All right, and that's time for the cross-X. As I'm sure you also have figured out by now, do you do easy? What do you go by generally? What do people like? SpeakeaZy? Like it's a lot of syllables. So what do you be? Easy.
Speak easy.
I'm gonna call you
whatever
easy.
you want,
I'm gonna
man.
call
It's
you
all good.
easy because it sounds coolest. So yeah,
All right.
whenever you run out of time, I'm not just
That's what
gonna
most people do, yeah.
cool word. I'm not just gonna jump in there and like shut you down. I'll let you finish your thought. Eventually, I will start telling you fucking tie it up, but just want to make sure you knew that. So 3 minutes is on the clock for your opening, sir. I'll start the clock when you start.
All right. So for my opening, I'm going to be very clear from the start. The claim tonight is not that Christians have never done wrong. The claim is that Christianity itself does more harm than good for society. So this is an extraordinary claim, and extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Here's the first problem. When my opponent says harm, they are borrowing moral language that only makes sense if morality is objective. If morality is subjective, just preferences dressed up in outrage, then harm just means I don't like this thing, right? And if morality is objective, then we have to ask what is grounding it? Because Christianity grounds morality in the nature of God, a transcendent, unchanging standard. Without that, morality becomes a cultural fashion. It's today's virtue and tomorrow's crime. All right, yesterday's crime becomes today's parade floats that you see in the streets. Okay, without that, you don't get to condemn Christianity using a moral vocabulary that Christianity itself built. All right, let's talk history. Before Christianity, the Romans would normalize infanticide. They left unwanted babies on hillsides like trash bags on collection day. Okay, gladiatorial games were state-sponsored slaughters. Slavery was not a moral tension, it was ontology. Some people were simply considered less than human. Christianity detonated all of those worldviews. It declared that every human being bears the image of God, not the strong, not the elite, not the Roman citizen. every human being. That single doctrine is the atomic bomb under every system of tyranny in history. Hospitals born in Christian communities. Universities come from cathedral schools. That's what evolved into universities today. Abolition movements that stop things like slavery, driven overwhelmingly by Christian convictions. Have Christianity been misused in history? Yes, of course it has. So has democracy, so has science, so has secularism. If misuse invalidates a system, then we must throw every system that humans have ever touched, because humans corrupt everything. That's not an argument against Christianity. That's an argument against, it's an argument for the Christian doctrine of sin. And here's the uncomfortable truth in all of this. Every time someone says Christianity is harmful, they are presupposing that harming human beings is objectively wrong. But why? We are cosmic accidents, rearranged stardust in a purposeless universe. Then harm is just chemistry running in and inconveniencing other chemistry. You don't get human rights from molecules, you get them from metaphysics. And if Christianity provides the metaphysical grounding for human dignity, moral law, forgiveness, and restraint of power, you remove Christianity from history and you never get a utopia. You get empires, tribes, and power deceiving morality. All right. So tonight, my opponent must prove that not Christians have failed. We already know that's happened. But Christianity itself, as a doctrinal system, produces more net evil than viable alternatives.
All right. So 3 minutes is now for you, Lethe. It's all yours, sir. Use it as you will.
Okay. So I must ask, does an act of good absolve the harm of being complicit in the action to begin with?
The act of good resolve. Sorry, could you say that again?
Does a act of good absolve the harm of being complicit in the action in the first place?
No.
So with that being the case, does empathy come into any reasoning as for how sentient creatures treat each other?
Like, yeah, human beings have empathy, yes.
So would that not shape the way we look at morality going through time?
No.
Okay.
Well, I'll give you why. The reason why it is because I think most people would agree that the Aztecs taking the babies on top of the temples and sacrificing them was wrong. And now we just do it in the womb, and nobody thinks it's wrong. So I don't know. Under my unchanging moral standard, that's not allowed. The Aztecs aren't allowed to do it, and neither are these little OnlyFans girls either.
So one last question. If you were to use the moral system of the Bible to guide your life and actually act upon it in reality, how fast would you go to jail?
If you use the law of the Bible
The Christian moral system.
for the
Like
laws,
burn witches, don't suffer a witch, stoning children for being disobedient,
so
or just beating them in
so
general.
this is a confusion between the Old Testament and the New Testament, right? That's what you're doing. Like, some of these things that happen in the Bible are historical recollections. These aren't all just like because it was in the Bible, you can do it, right?
It was a prescription from the Bible that we carried all the way up into the early Americas. So I'm going to say people did act on these passages. This is why we got the Salem witch trials. This is why people were told to confess.
So you think it's only because of? So you're saying that people misused the doctrine, is what you're saying?
I'm saying they applied it properly.
Well, no, I don't think I disagree with that. That's what I would disagree with.
So under
Right,
what
like,
reasoning are they wrong?
well, because are we arguing that like one localized place means, and like it lasted what? How long did that last? Like not even a year?
It's It's lasted since the inception of Christianity or Judaism to begin
No, I'm
with.
talking about the Salem witch trials.
Oh,
That
yeah,
was like that
it was
didn't
a
even last a
reasonably
year. Like
short
just
period of
because
time.
one.
Cross
Yeah,
examination
do you
is
think
over.
that
Just keep
that
talking,
this?
gentlemen. 10 minutes is on the clock. This is open combo. Just roll.
Okay. So I just want to ask you in return, do you think that that one like moment in time outweighs like thousands of years of like hospitals, universities, abolition movements? Like, why is that like one moment in time you're like, this is what Christianity would do instead of looking at like the bigger scope of what Christianity has done?
Yeah, all that is in spite of, not because of necessarily. So, the institutions being created by the church was mostly to prove the church to be correct and use the science that they were developing to do so. And once it showed that they were not correct, they started jailing people and putting them on house arrest for speaking out against the church, which is why I said in my opening statement that it is very difficult to change our understandings against the perceived will of a deity and what that deity has said.
Okay, so even if I just conceded to you that yes, it led to Salem witch trials, stoning children, all of this, um, like you still haven't like explained to me why if morality is subjective, that anybody can be objectively wrong about doing anything.
So there are harms in the world. So like we have empathy toward our fellow human beings. When you see another
Harm
human
based
being be
off of
struck
what?
based off of our own sensibilities, and our sensibilities change over time. So that makes it
You
mind
work out,
dependent.
right? You look, yeah, you work out. I remember you saying you work out. It probably
Yeah,
hurts when you go hard, right? Is that
absolutely.
harmful? Are you
Sometimes,
harming
yes. You have
yourself?
to, yes, in some cases. You can get injuries. What if you don't listen to your body and you don't pay attention to the harm being done to your body,
No,
you
I'm
can end
asking
up
the
with
pain,
massive
the
injury.
physical pain. Does that automatically equal harm?
No, not always.
Right. So that's what I'm trying to say is what are we measuring when we say harm? What's the measurement here? My harm, me saying that the dude beside you has a big nose or looks like Napoleon Dynamite, that might be harmful to him. But then if I say you got a big nose and you look like Jay-Z, that might not be harmful to you, right? So like what's harm? What are you basing the harm off of? Like where's the grounding?
The grounding is in human ethics and morality that we've had long before Christianity existed. So we've had these rules probably since the time we became a societal species in the first place. So
It's not true.
like when you live in a society of people that perform tasks, you don't want things to befall the people that do the tasks. If there's a person in your city that makes bread, you don't want somebody to go and murder the person that makes bread because then you don't get bread. That's going to just overall make people unhappy. So when you see these things, it becomes an in-group out-group bias. And this is something that Christianity does pretty well. It creates an in-group bias against people that are outside of that grouping.
Okay, so when you bring up these like societies that had moral codes before Christianity, um, sure, right? But the thing is, like, let me give you an analogy here to people understood math before calculus, right? That doesn't mean calculus didn't deepen and formalize math in itself. What you're talking about is as Christians, right? We understand that morals are objective and they are written on our hearts. That's where that feeling of empathy comes from. But that doesn't explain why we should do something, right? That's the problem we're having here is that you're telling me that you feel like something's wrong and a lot of people have felt like something's wrong, and that's because they have the morals written on their heart, but that doesn't tell them why they shouldn't or should do something.
And I'm saying a lot of harms happen because these morals aren't written on our hearts. So we don't consider the harm until it befalls us and our grouping, which is why the slave trade being endorsed by the church, being a harm, wasn't felt to be problematic to the parishioners of that church. Of course, if they had to sit there and see the people going through the pain and suffering, they would definitely say, oh, well, this doesn't seem like a good thing. But once you have to actually wrestle with that, you can see that all of a sudden people's opinions on this are going to change, which happens over time.
Then why are we? If that were true, why are we like okay with like murking babies in the womb?
Why
Like,
are we okay with murking babies in the
yeah,
womb? Like literally, this was in the Bible
it
to do
wouldn't
so
like
as well.
harm include like. Do you think ending a life is harmful? Is that like your idea of
In some
that's
cases, an
in
abortion
some
is a
case?
good thing. Like if the baby's going to die anyway, or if the mother's life is in danger, you have to make a calculated choice. These are things that have
Sure,
to
in
happen.
very rare cases, that's not the
And
majority
so,
of abortions, though. But this is a different topic. The when you say pre-Christian societies had moral
mhm.
codes, what can you explain to me which ones you're talking about? Like, is Rome one of them?
I was speaking directly to the Code of Hammurabi, to the Hindu precepts that came before Christianity, which are also borrowed by Christianity. So, in a lot of cases, when people say you're borrowing the Christian worldview, in reality, Christianity borrowed the worldview of multiple societies before them.
So, do you know a lot about the Hindu moral frameworks?
A decent amount, but not strongly.
Okay, well, was Hindu like morality like a universal and like egalitarian in the same way that Christianity claims all humans bear the image of God?
In their opinion, it is that it's a cosmic thing where you need to treat people as well as possible. You need to create a oneness within yourself to reach the state of Dharma, to reach nirvana. Like these things are universal concepts in their religion.
No, the classic Hindu law is based on birth-based moral duties. Um, like there was a hierarchy of a class of human. So that's just not true. What you're saying?
Oh, I'm not saying that it was perfect because, again, these are coming from human beings, so I don't think they come from a god. But they had a nonviolence, they had truthfulness, not stealing, chastity, non greed. Like these are all concepts or precepts of this particular moral code.
Well, no, no. That's just because that they seem similar doesn't mean that Christianity borrowed or took anything from them, or they would be.
Right. These are
Why would
pre-existing
they?
concepts.
It's a pre-existing concept. Yeah, that shows that these people again were confident with the morals they had written on their heart. But again, they if you go back to their law codes, duties and treatment was not equal across peoples.
So, what is an objective moral thing in Christianity?
Every human is made in the image of God.
Every human is made
Objectively.
in the image of God.
Doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter how your capabilities are, it doesn't matter how sick you are. None of this matters. You are made in the image of God and you are worth something. You have purpose. That is universal.
So, if that's the case, why was slavery okay in the Bible if everybody's made in the image of God objectively?
Well, funny thing about slavery, it wasn't made okay, right? You're talking about so if you look at the what you're talking about, if you don't like cherry pick and you read the whole scripture in context, it's talking about how they are this is a time when he's going collecting slaves to free them, and it's teaching him how to treat them and free them, right? Every single one ends with them being freed. And on top of this, um the treatment was in a time of people mistreating other human beings. There was a code of conduct put in place, and if you just look at like what happened in America when slavery was first ended. There was a lot of people that like couldn't leave the plantations because they didn't understand how to just go live in society. Now you couldn't just take people that were slaves their whole life and then just put them into civilization and be like, there you go, buddy, figure it out. That would be horrible, right? They earned their way, or sorry, they trained their way back into society, because we believe every human being is made in the image of God.
So with that being the case, there were rules in the Bible for slavery, including how to trick your slave into being your slave forever. But I'll go a step beyond that. Let's talk about the genocide of the Amalekites,
That's cherry
where
picking.
when God told his people to wipe out these people and leave absolutely nothing, women, children. But in the case of the virgins, we get to keep those. How is this not in line with biblical morality?
Well, it would be if it was a command of God, right?
Mhm.
So, like you're talking
So-
about like the Amalekites, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So, like, do you think that these were just like random civilians minding their own business, and God said, "Go wipe them
I
out"?
think they were human beings made in the image of God, as you said, objectively.
Mhm.
And
No,
God,
they were
apparently,
long-standing for hundreds of years, long-standing hostile tribe that directly disobeyed uh, God. And in our worldview, God is the life giver, which means he's also the life taker. That's morally fine under my worldview, and it doesn't change because God is the arbitrary standard that you want to say it's arbitrary. God is that standard. So
so I have to
in
ask in that
your
case.
worldview, you couldn't say that's wrong. Even if I wanted to say God, if God told me to go kick a baby off the building, I would do it because God said it. You couldn't even tell me that's wrong. You could just say, I don't like it.
That's fine. I'm not claiming that I have some divine arbiter to tell me what is right and what is wrong. But what I want to ask is God a mind? Or does God have a mind?
Does God have a mind?
I'm wondering, yes.
So when you say does God have a mind, are you meaning in like the human sense? Is that what you're like?
I mean,
I think
God
you're
commands things. I don't know. Like, we can get into like what the substance of mind is.
Yeah, he
But
has a
does
mind.
God have?
Okay, he has a mind.
Okay,
He has a mind.
so basically, the morality of your system is based on the mind of God, which becomes subjective, not objective. Correct?
No.
All
So
right. I'm
if it's an unchanging standard, right? That means it's objective because there's no situation that makes it okay or not okay, right? It's always not okay to cheat on your wife. Always. Doesn't matter what the situation was. Okay, if she wasn't sleeping with you or didn't make you happy or this and that, doesn't matter. It's never okay. But in your worldview, you would have to say, well, I mean, I don't like it, but it's not good or bad.
all right. So I'm going to go ahead and jump on in there. I tacked on 2 minutes because y'all were cooking and I wanted to hear the rest. But I also am eager to.
So much more.
Yeah, no, this is going to turn into the after party. So that said, we're going to go ahead and I assume that the judges have questions. I sure as fuck do. We're going to do it like we used to, which is to say that all 3 questions are going to go to the AF. We're going to hit you with 3 different questions, then we're going to go to the Neg, and then you guys are going to get your closings, and we'll go. So that said, I'm going to go ahead and look at you first, Lethe, and I again. Moderator's privilege. I'm going to ask my question first, so that way if I take their question, they got to figure it out, not me. Lethe, the prompt states that Christianity does more harm to society than good. How would one be able to reasonably quantify the balance of harm? Does that question make sense?
Balance of harm.
But
I believe what you're
how do you
saying is
count?
looking
How do you
toward
count the harm to compare?
possible good things.
What metric
So
are you
when you're
using
looking
to
at-
measure?
I'm using a historical metric. So since the inception of Christianity and how it's functioned, what it's done for society, what it's built, what it's destroyed, is how I'm looking at this. So when I'm seeing the genocide of multiple peoples just based on this particular ideology, I consider that a great harm. Whereas you can look toward like charitable giving, you can look toward organizations that help people, you can look toward the establishment of education and hospitals and things like that. You can say there are goods in that, but then you can also look toward the harms that they did alongside that. Like when the AIDS epidemic was viewed as a product of sin, like these things are easily terrible actions.
All right.
I mean, it was.
Oh,
But
you'll get your chance in a few minutes, sir. So LetsCheif, are you ready with a question for Lethe?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
So if we're talking about harm, it seems like we're discussing outcomes. So beyond or setting aside the text of what the Bible might allow or give instructions for, does the totality of harmful outcomes actually outweigh the good created as a result of Christianity, with that in mind?
More time on that? I think I
Yeah,
might have missed
so
something
going
there.
beyond, like setting aside the text of what the Bible might allow or give instructions for, because when we're discussing harm, we're talking about outcomes. Does the totality of harmful outcomes actually outweigh the good created as a result of Christianity by like that boundary?
In my opinion, it does, based on the whole idea, like if these precepts weren't put to a divine command, in that a God is the thing that we're trying to please, like looking at, a certain time in Germany when they said God mit uns on their buckles, like there was a reason for this. So even if it's not doctrinally sound, you look at the actions of the individuals that are utilizing the ideology to begin with. And I can say I haven't seen anybody, doing harm. With great power comes great responsibility. Like we can take concepts and apply them to our lives and not have it be a dogmatic thing.
All right. And Kay, ready with a question for Mr. Lethe?
Yeah. You guys kind of like asked my question, so this is going to be a little bit more redundant. I tried to like square it away to make it a little unique, but
Sucking
all
on
right. So
tits sucks.
even if Christianity stole its moral codes, the question is whether there is more harm or not. So I'd like you to take the top 3 worst and best things the church has done, and then walk us through how you calculate those things against each other.
And try and do it under a
That's
minute.
very interesting. Yeah, that's tough. So when you look at Christianity, the reason why it was adopted into Constantinople, it was to create a framework of control and subjugation. So the abuse and control, the impact that it has on children, family dysfunctions, and general health and mental trauma, like looking at that is just on the core of what the Christian framework can do. If I look toward a good that it does, it creates a sense of charitability, a reason to want to give. But then I can look at the other hand of that. That giving is under duress. It's under the belief that you are doomed to hell and you were born a flawed, horrible, twisted being. So looking on hand in hand, these harms usually outweigh the reasoning. What's another one? Like just when it comes down to missionary work, I'm going to say, yeah, it could bring, medicine and good things to those countries. But at the same time, killing off people with diseases you don't know you have based on a divine mandate is crazy work, in my opinion. Was that 3 or was that 2?
It was time.
I mean, it's out of time now.
So either way, you did
Okay.
you did what you could. All right, good stuff. Now we're gonna go ahead and go over to you, Mr. Easy, and I'll start again because it's one of the few perks I get at this job. So I was confused in your opening at first when you were tying morality to harm. But you explained your position in your actual opening. When you were doing that in the cross, and then in your opening you tied it together, which I dug. That said, can you think of examples of harm that Christianity has caused that are not tied to morality. So, in other words, not an example of a moral harm, but rather a physical harm.
So this is actually why I got into this. Is harm is always going to be a moral claim, because if harm is always bad, then that means it's a moral claim, right? If we're talking harm as in some type of like physical strain to the senses that humans have, then like when my dog takes a shit and I smell it and it sucks, that's also harm, right? So I don't measure harm strictly off of physical outcomes. Actually, I don't think harm ever can be measured by outcomes, because like if we eliminated half the people on the planet, a lot of people would like have more resources, but that wouldn't be good, right? That wouldn't be a good outcome. So is it harmful to eliminate half the people, or is it actually good because of all the great outcomes that would come from it? So this is why harm is always a moral claim.
Okay, and you landed that right on the button. I'm going to go to you this time, Kay. You ready with a question for Mr. Easy?
Yeah, I am.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so this is a little bit of a mouthful, but if the word of God
Giggity.
was presumed to have harm reduction, so we're already presuming that in this question, with the inclusion of the church and how people apply the organization of religion within Christianity, would you say that Christianity has still done more good? So this would include misinformation campaigns, the stifling of innovation, political corruption, and wars that are caused not because of the word of God, but how people apply Christianity.
So I would reject the premise that people are using Christianity as the basis for their reasoning for these wars. I think they use it as an excuse, right? But I believe if you look back in history, it will show you that most wars come from two things: greed and power, right? These are the two things that most wars are a result of. So like I reject the premise that like they strictly use Christianity as the foundation for why the war started. I believe they use it as an excuse.
I actually forgot to start the clock, but I think that was right about a minute. I was immediately writing my response. All right, and LetsCheif, question for you now. You ready to go ahead?
Yeah, this just goes back to a question that Lethe had asked, I think, in the cross exam. If being made in the image of God is what put empathy in man's hearts, then why does that empathy not shape morality?
Because we're flawed, and not only do we have empathy, we have temptations like lust. We're so in my worldview, right? This is a result of the fall. So what's happened is there was a choice that was made a long time ago, and now as human beings we have free will to make choices, and our free will comes with the instincts that we have as well. Again, lust, hunger can make you eat too much and want to take somebody else's food because of it. These things are temptations that we need help with resisting. Think of it as like we are sick and Christianity is the hospital that we all need.
All right. There you go. So that is the end of the questioning period. Remember, audience, get ready to vote when this is over on who you think is making the most persuasive case. Each of the debaters is going to get 3 minutes on the clock now for their closing arguments. We're going to do it in the same order we started. So, Lethe, are you ready to close?
I think I am ready to close. So, looking at the outcomes that have come from the church's involvement in multiple different things, looking at their, am I muted? Hold on.
You sound great here.
I shouldn't be muted. Okay, cool. You look at all the Christianity around the world. You look at the predominant effect that Christianity has had on Africa, especially, where you get the genocide of the Tutsis, where they were burning women as witches. You get the U.S. response to HIV and them saying that it is the cause is moral decay. And literally, the president of the United States didn't say a word about it until Rock Hudson died, which is part of the in-group bias that causes people to actually have empathy and treat people like they're human beings. You look toward, like, literally the way the church affects families, the abuse and control, the justification of abuse, the authoritarian dynamics, the impact on children with corporal punishment, fear-based education, the fact that concepts such as inherent sinfulness, the existence of the demonic, or a fear of hell can deeply harm children. The medical neglect, when parents don't get their children medical care because they believe that God is going to do something for their child, or that they believe that the treatment itself is harmful to children. You look at, like, literally what the Mormons did, in the idea that the tribe of Ham is a stain on humanity and those people can't be treated as actual humans. So if we're all made in God's image, why can't any of these particular sects of Christianity agree with each other? Apparently, it's not coming from an objective mind. It's based on the subjective reasoning of human beings that are perceiving these concepts. So I would say that if we had something more static to show what is good, what is bad, what is going to benefit humanity, what is going to harm humanity, and we can take that moving forward, knowing that it isn't a divine precept, but it's a human thing that we're developing over time, I think it would be more beneficial to us as a species. Ultimately, looking to things like abortion, restriction of healthcare access, the stigma and shame that comes along with it, the impact on reproductive autonomy, the spiritual guilt that's inferred by religion itself. Like, you just see the harms all over the place, and it's hard to separate one from the other while you're looking at these things. And with that, I'm going to yield my time.
All right. 3 minutes is going on the clock now for you, Easy. You get the last word, sir. Clock starts when you do.
All righty. Thank you for that. First off, thank you to Lethe, my opponent, having a good faith back and forth. I always like that. And to the host for inviting me on, thank you as well. Tonight, my opponent claimed that Christianity does more harm than good, but what we have actually seen is a list of human failures, okay? We haven't seen actual proof that Christian doctrine itself produces a net evil. And that distinction matters because if you blame Christianity for every sin that's committed by someone who claimed the name Christian, then you must blame democracy for every corrupt politician, science for every atomic bomb we've ever had, secularism for every totalitarian regime we've ever had. You must blame these things as well, because humans corrupt everything we touch. Like I said, we are sick, and Christianity is that hospital that we need. Christianity is the only worldview that actually explains it all. It calls it sin. All right, let's talk about moral grounding. All right, my opponents repeatedly use the word harm, and harm to whom? Why is harm wrong? What makes a human being valuable in the first place that they are not to be harmed? If we just are highly evolved animals, rearranged stardust, right, in this purposeless universe, then moral outrage is just a chemical reaction. It's just meh. If you don't get human rights from molecules that evolved, all right, you don't get dignity from dust, and you don't get a moral obligation from physics. Okay, you get it from metaphysics, and Christianity provides the grounding. It declares, again, every human being, powerful, weak, male, female, black, white, slave, free, bears the image of God. That idea itself has reshaped civilizations and is the very ground of everything you guys love today. Before Christianity, societies were structured strictly off of a hierarchy: citizen, versus barbarian, masters, slaves, strong, weak. Christianity said, nope, you are all equal. All right. It told the emperors they have to answer to a higher throne. It told slaves that it doesn't matter what they do to you here, you are eternally worthy. Okay. It told the violent to love their enemies. Okay. Hospitals emerged from charity that was from Christians. Universities came from cathedral schools. Again, Christians. Abolition movements from all of history were fueled by Christian convictions. Even slavery in the U.S. was mentioned today. Guess who stopped that? Christians. Has Christianity been misused? Yes, but we misuse everything. This just proves human corruption, not the evil of the doctrine itself. Okay. And the very idea that harming humans is wrong is downstream of the belief that humans possess intrinsic sacred worth. And that belief was universalized by Christianity. You're welcome.
All right. There you go. That was a fucking great debate, gentlemen. Thank you both very, very much. I enjoyed that tremendously. And I'm pretty sure that the audience did as well, since they have been typing their fucking fingers off. Yeah, applause, round of applause, absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that into the chat, and I'm going to give this to you as well, Mr. Easy. Ba-doom-ba-doof. So there you go.
Yeah, my chat was like, where's the poll?
So everybody go ahead and vote for what you think was the most compelling case. Christianity doing more harm to society than good. Did Lethe up above or did SpeakeaZy on the left make a better case? Let's see what the judges say. Let's see. Who did I go to first last time? I went to K last time first. So LetsCheif, buddy, it's on you.
You know, I liked it when you used to vamp a lot more.
I can do that if you want, but I figured that y'all get sick of hearing my voice.
I'm just nope. Not when it's time for me to go next.
No, not when I gotta think. Cheers.
So you're gonna hear me do it live, I guess. So, I agree with SpeakeaZy that the claim has to be that Christianity has done net harm. And both of them seem to agree that people, either out of their subjectivity or their flawed interpretations, end up cooking up different results using the same doctrine, which seems to point to a lack of objectivity. And I really liked that point that Lethe made, that all these subjective uses of Christian concepts shows a lack of objectivity itself. But because of the lack of that objectivity, would we then even be able to say that Christianity itself has done more harm than good? So it was a really good debate back and forth, and it was a really tight one for me, but I feel like it's going to be 4-6 SpeakeaZy.
There you go. All right, 4-6 SpeakeaZy. Kay, where did you land on this? Once again, chat, make sure you click on that vote. Tell us what you think.
Funny enough, I also landed on a 4-6 decision. So I'm going to say, man, this is the closest debate for me, but I think that we went off topic a little bit more than I liked. And I think that SpeakeaZy's best points is when he was talking about the paradigm world shift before Christianity and then post-Christianity. I think this is the strongest case for Christianity's overall impact on the world, specifically at that time. And I think that Lethe's strongest points were talking about the accumulated harm that he, I wish he went more into, but he went in on the cost, pretty much, of information and pressures from religion, basically holding humanity back. And this alludes to, he didn't directly mention it, but I'm going to imagine he meant things like also like vaccines and stuff. But in general sciences, I thought these were strong points. I'm personally not even sold on one direction or the other. I came with this not really knowing which way I believed, and I still don't know which one. But I think that I have to give it to Lethe 4 to 6, right? The conclusions are what sold me personally because I think you can blame people on how they use doctrine if the institutions themselves reinforce an interpretation of the doctrine, which I think Lethe did successfully articulate. I also think he did articulate more examples of harm that had more lasting impact and severity, and was also able to boil down the Christianity good things as, oh, well, we would have had that anyway without Christian, and like it doesn't even seem like they hold up to it, maybe. And I think that if Speakeasy was to stick straight to his guns and wasn't going to get off topic, I think he could have probably edged it out. But I think him going off topic a bit and talking about the subjectivity of morality and overplaying his card on that. It was good the first time, but I think he overplayed it to the point of actually hurting his own argumentation and then going off on some tangents about abortion without seeing it the whole way through. I think kind of threw him off as well, because I think he could have maybe gotten some good points off it if he didn't bring it up and then abandon it, or bring it up and then not follow it through. So that's where I stand.
Okay, so I need to clarify, because generally the 4 going before the 6 means that it would be Lethe being the F, be getting the 4. So you were actually 6-4. You were in favor of Lethe.
6-4. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, 6-4 in favor of Lethe. My bad.
No, well, it's pretty fucking significant here. So that said, I'm glad I caught your comment, because I thought that it was already a shutout, but that ties it up between the judges. So the audience is once again the deciding factor. So I'm going to give it a couple of seconds for everybody to lock their votes in. And just so you know, Speakeasy, we actually keep running score. So far, it's just kind of for bragging rights, but it's also for rankings. So the numbers actually matter. That's why it's on the 10-point scale that it is. And keeping it tied like this is kind of funny, because this has happened between one of our judges here, LetsCheif, and a guy, I think you know, Tyler, as well, multiple times. The only other times we've had ties was between the two of them. So that said, I'm just really babbling, fucking jacking my jaws, giving the audience a couple more minutes to lock in votes. And I think that's about it. So we're going to go over there and see who wins. I guess you guys probably have already looked at this. Nice. All right. So we've got 80-20 for the negative. 80-20 for the negative. So that means Mr. Speakeasy didn't just win. He fucking decayed. That's kind of a blowout. Right? That was 20. Yeah. For the negative. So 2-8, that means Speakeasy wins. Great fucking job. And that is to everybody who debated tonight. Thank you all very, very much. I now have just the one comment that I get to make before we roll into the after party. Sir, welcome to the fucking team. Welcome to the party. Welcome to the conversation. That was an absolute banger of a performance. And I agree with Lethe. And it was kind of funny, because I was writing about Lethe for you don't know this, but I take shit tons of fucking notes while I'm sitting here listening to y'all. And one of the things I was writing was how Lethe has the gift of flow. And as I was on the word full, you like choked. And I was like, oh, okay. He just totally just brain farted there. It was just kind of funny, because you were just rolling. I love the fact that you brought as many numbers as you did, but I gotta give MVP to Speakeasy tonight, because there were several things that you did that surprised me. Hearing a Christian refer to humans as cosmic space dust collections, you were essentially using the morality of atheists against them. And then simultaneously, when you made the comment about not being allowed to use the moral framework created by Christianity to judge Christianity, even though I disagree with it. That was a brilliant piece of rhetoric. I hope that you're responsible for that and didn't hear that somewhere else, because that was fucking great. I have so much shit.
I worked pretty hard on all of.
Yeah, no, dude, it showed. And the thing is, you were also able to tap dance around all of Lethe's points simply by saying that harm is subjective. As once, like, again, I made the comment with my question that I was wondering why you jumped to the morality. But then once morality to the harm, to the subjective, to the fuck, he's kind of right. What one man's harm is another man's benefit. So anyway, we're going to get into it in the fucking after party, because I got so much shit to say to you. But great fucking debate, man. And brava.
Appreciate it.
So.
Appreciate it.